Taco Salad is a production of GeekTaco.com. Please bookmark GeekTaco.com for the latest in geek culture news. Now, on with your show. Hello, and welcome to Taco Salad, your multi-ingredient podcast for everything delicious in geek culture, presented to you by GeekTaco.com. I am your host, Matthew, and with me today are my two co-hosts, Miss Kaylee Chambers and Mr. Chris Cohen. Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Kaylee, good to have you back finally on the show, gracing us with your lovely presence.
And look, camera's staying connected.
Yeah, let's hope. Everyone out there, anyone watching, please cross fingers and all that good stuff. Well, anyways, welcome back another week. Third episode of Taco Salad. I'm very proud of us. We're kind of like finally ironing out all those kinks that we had the first couple weeks, and hopefully we can go strong. But let us get into some news right off the bat. San Diego Comic-Con was, I believe, last weekend?
So.
Sounds about right.
I like how we're all like, I don't know. I really don't know. But anyways, yeah, last weekend, a whole bunch of stuff got released, a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about it this episode. It won't be the main discussion topic, but it'll be some of the good chunk of this episode. But we got other things we can talk about as well. Does anyone want to go first?
I guess I'll get started.
Let me guess. I'm thinking comic books, right? Comic books.
You read
Psychic.
my mind.
Yes, I am psychic.
All right, so the big one of the bigger hypes and I guess the one that hit with me personally the most was the Death of X event that is upcoming with Marvel Comics. It explains what happened in the 8-month gap between the end of Secret Wars and the beginning of the all-new, all-different Marvel Now universe, which is getting its name changed again. Don't even get me started.
If anyone wants to know how my feelings on this, go back to episode 2. There's about a 5-minute rant that I go into.
Yeah.
Continue,
So
Chris.
it basically just shows what Cyclops did to the Inhumans that has vilified mutants again in the Marvel Universe. And it leads into another event, which is essentially just the X-Men versus the Inhumans. The big stickler for this was they announced Death of X, and then they put out the previews catalog, and there were no X-Men titles whatsoever in the previews catalog. So everyone started hooting and hollering, and oh my god, Marvel's canceling all of the X titles, which is what people have been speculating about for years and years, given their feud with Fox and the fact that there's no Fantastic Four title currently.
Yeah, I've heard
Marvel's offering.
rumor about this, is that there's just some animosity, but everyone keeps, like, I keep seeing actual interviews that are like, some saying maybe X-Men's going away, but other ones are like immediately released saying, no, X-Men is perfectly fine, we're going to do stuff with X-Men, do not worry, you're going to have X-Men. So
yeah, so they let that stew for a couple of days. Actually, the Chris versus Chris column that I do occasionally with one of the other Geek Taco guys, we had thought about each picking a side and like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And then by the time we had sat down and said, all right, maybe we'll do this, one of the Marvel editors was like, you guys are crazy to think we would cancel the X-Men titles. It's still one of Marvel's most lucrative publishing properties. And, it's not the heyday where they had about 9 or 10 titles going, but they've still got,
yeah,
3
it's still
X-Men
strong.
titles.
I mean, Kayla, do you got any thoughts on this?
Not much. I mean, I can understand with them. I can understand some of the reasons why they're like, we're going to shave back on X-Men stuff and veer over here. At least for now.
Yeah,
It does not make Chris happy at all.
No, I mean, there's just a lot of things.
Inhumans.
All I can think of
Not gonna happen.
All I can think of is with like Spider-Man and the Marvel Cinematic Universe that eventually maybe X-Men may go back or at least be sort of midwifed into Marvel and they can do something there, but who knows? I mean, X-Men's still a pretty robust franchise, so you know what? Actually, you already said it. You know what I'd love to see? Marvel get Fantastic Four, and then inject them into the cinematic universe. I think that would fit really well, and with no real explanation other than their origin story.
I think it's a little too late. They've already got people to fill most of the roles of the Fantastic Four, and just the Fox, just for whatever reason, despite the fact that the Fantastic Four has not been a good moneymaker for them, just refuses to let any of their licensed properties go.
Well, given long enough, when
It-
those piles of cash just start stacking up, man, I don't know. They may get really tempted. You were saying, Kaylee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have totally ruined Fantastic. I mean, it's like, I didn't mind the first two, and those were pretty bad. And then this newest one, it's in like, that is 2 hours of my life I can never get back.
I haven't seen it. I haven't
I
seen it yet.
skipped seeing it either. I could just tell from the trailer. I was like, this is just it's Fox's formula of, and it's sort of the same thing I think some of the Warner Brothers DC films have suffered from. It's just that while Marvel Cinematics has embraced the fact that superheroes are just innately ridiculous and run around in bright, shiny costumes doing miraculous things, Fox is like, no, they must be grounded in reality. And the Fantastic Four tried to be sort of grounded. The second one went kind of goofy and had way too much product placement. And it's the same thing with the Warner movies. They're like, there's no, like before Superman, they're like, Batman doesn't really have powers. There's no powered villains. It's all science and grimdark and gray filters.
See, the thing is,
Yep.
I actually liked both Fantastic Four films, like the ones made in the double aughts. I enjoyed them. I thought the first one was good. The second one was weirder, but still really kind of neat, sort of adventure-y, sort of family dynamic stuff. And Silver Surfer was pretty badass in that. And I like their interpretation of Galactus. Yes, you can't have a giant world-sized man with a goofy hat. You need to have something a little more Lovecraftian in its incarnation. And so, I mean, I understand why they wanted to reboot it, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was just fine.
That reboot was terrible. And it's like I actually said to some of my friends, I would rather sit and watch Pixels again than ever watch that movie.
Man, you saw Pixels?
Yep.
Oh, man, we're going to have to sit down and talk about that one day. I haven't
You're a
seen it yet, and that's on
Braver
my,
person than I.
that's on my crappy, like bucket list of movies to watch when I retire. Like, I mean, no, I'm not kidding. That's my retirement plan, everyone. When Matthew retires from work, if I can, I'm going to just sit and eat all the media that I missed during my life, like all the stuff that I wanted to see but never got a chance to see. It's totally what I'm doing. But anyways, back. So we got that Death of X and the new No More X-Men potentiality going on there. What else we got? Steven Universe. What's going on with that?
Well, actually, before we leave Comic-Con, there was the CW, and they're just huge.
Okay, if you want to talk about that, that's cool. Let's go back to that.
Okay, so biggest news for anybody that hasn't been kept up on Arrow, spoiler alert, we give everybody a couple seconds to mute the podcast.
Yeah, go ahead a few minutes, because...
Not watched it.
Oh, yeah, you should, Kaylee. You should watch it. Anyways,
Just
3,
see.
2, 1. Go ahead,
Okay,
Chris.
so everybody knows that Laurel, the Black Canary, is killed off.
Yeah.
And so one of the big announcements coming out of Comic-Con is that Katie Cassidy has secured a contract similar to Wentworth Miller, where she is now a show regular, but she is not attached to any particular show in the 4 set of shows, so she is free to hop around between Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow.
This is Black Canary?
Yeah, they didn't really say. Now, the ending of Flash was essentially Flashpoint. He goes back
Yeah.
and saves his mom.
Yeah, she could be alive because of Flashpoint.
So as far as I know, coming back, it is Wally is the Flash, not Barry.
But he still
because-
has his powers.
Yeah, but he's not the Flash that everyone knows and loves.
Right.
It's Wally. Joe doesn't have a very close relationship with Barry because
His
Barry's
family's still
his
alive.
family's still together. So there's
And we
just a lot
get
of-
two, and we have 2 villains. We have 2 costume villains this season.
Yes, and there will just be a lot of post-Flashpoint. Maybe some stuff's changed, so who knows if Katie Cassidy's going to be able to be like Earth 1 Laurel and Earth 2 Laurel? Is she going to be Black Siren? Is she going to be Black Canary? Is she just going to be
I don't know.
Laurel?
I like Black Siren. I think that was a great character, and I think she should continue playing that. I didn't like Black Canary. I didn't like Laurel Lance. The actress is fine. Her character was just like not well written, and she didn't do much.
I kind of felt like she was just getting, after all the weird, they were kind of just figuring out what to do with her. And
Yeah.
then they were like, we have to kill her off to make way for the Oliver-Felicity relationship that everyone hates. Anyway, not going to get into a big rant on that. Just that's the last before we get into much brighter, happier television. Steven Universe.
Yay!
I just kind of caught up on the summer of Steven because I didn't need to not be crying at some point while watching cartoons and folding my laundry.
Or crying while you're on this podcast.
Or on the podcast. Yeah, that the Mr. Greg episode, which is the whole Greg Pearl Rose.
Yeah,
thing.
That's a deep show. Hey, Kaylee, how much of Steven Universe have you watched? Oh man, we're just batting 1,000 today. It's because people can't hear Kaylee do hand gestures. She has not seen any Steven Universe, none, zero, and like last week, I challenged Chris to watch something. He challenged me to watch something. I challenge you to start watching some Steven Universe. I don't expect you to watch all of it, but I do expect you to start it. Because Kaylee, I think if you start watching it, you're not going to stop. It's a really, really good television show.
I did actually watch the first episode of Community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now watch the first episode of Stranger Things. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
I have. I've seen the first 3, I think.
Okay, so we're not talking about that yet. We just get through the news, and then we can go on to what we've seen or haven't seen. Anyways, okay, so we talked about also at San Diego Comic-Con, because I'm the movie guy and I love movies, they released a crap ton of teaser trailers and full trailers for some movies coming out soon, and every one of them was spot on. We got ourselves a Wonder Woman trailer, a full Wonder Woman trailer. It looks great. It looks awesome. It looks epic. It's the mascara. It's World War I guys fighting Amazonians. It's going to be great. She looks badass. She feels badass. And they're going with her origin story of being birthed by Zeus. Like, she is not born of woman. She's a woman, not of biological creation. That's the origin story they're going with, which is really neat. We got ourselves, what other trailers? We got
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, which was him flipping on the cape and looking like Doctor Strange. You got to see more about how the magic kind of works and what's going on with it, which is fantastic. Yep. We got ourselves a pseudo Justice League trailer. It wasn't a full trailer. What they did was they put footage together that they have finished, specifically for Comic-Con and to show the audience, and then they released it on YouTube. Go watch it, guys. This thing has more humor in it than the last 3 DC movies. It's funny. It's interesting. Arthur Curry, Aquaman, is badass and is just whiskey chugging, just hard ass, and I love it. There's we get to see Barry Allen, the new Barry Allen, the movieverse version. He's great. He's like a dorky Spider-Man-like character. Because what's going on in the trailer, Batman is running around trying to recruit these guys, and he's being introduced to each one of them. The joke that I loved the most was at the very end. Aquaman's got Bruce Wayne up on the wall being all threatening, and Bruce says to him straight-faced, going, "I hear you talk to fish." It was fantastic. Perfect. Mwah. Yep. Continue going, guys.
It was like, okay, DC, you have my attention a little bit right now.
Yeah, and
just a little bit.
Yeah, and then we also got, besides movie trailers, we also got a whole bunch of television trailers, specifically Netflix, a whole bunch of Marvel Netflix series. We got ourselves a full Luke Cage trailer, which is him just beating down the door of a Harlem project and taking out some bad guys. We got ourselves a teaser, a very short teaser for Iron Fist, which gives us a little backstory about him being an orphan and there was a plane crash and him coming back to the United States. You didn't see much of his powers. We'll see where that goes. Plus, we got ourselves the tiniest teaser. This is just sort of some graphics put on a page to some music and dialogue, which was basically The Defenders, which is once Iron Fist is done, they are going to put Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones all on one team to deal with some big problem in New York City, which is going to be fantastic. Did you get to see these guys?
I saw a few of them.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, the more I see of the teen DC movies, the more I just want to see Ben Affleck's Batman movie.
Yes. 100% behind you, man.
I feel like Ben Affleck really took all of the criticism for Batman versus Superman to heart. He's an Academy Award-winning writer. He's a
director.
really good actor
and director.
and director. Like, when he really wants to make a great film, he makes great films.
Yes.
And he also doesn't take himself too seriously 100% of the time. So I feel like he's willing to put in the work, deal with any of the poop that gets flung at him, and make a movie.
From what I've seen, it looks like he knows how to absorb criticism, and he gets mad about it, but he doesn't lash out. What he does is he goes, "This needs to be better," and everything I've seen, it just points in the direction that Ben Affleck's like, "No, if I'm going to be Batman, I'm going to be Batman, and we're going to do it the right way. I want to see." Now, remember, he's going to be in Suicide Squad briefly. It is Ben Affleck as Batman in Suicide Squad, which comes out in about a week. So you guys out there listening to this, you'll definitely get my review of Suicide Squad in about a week or two, whenever I get around to it. But I will see it, and you'll get my review of it.
Yeah, I'm also psyched up
That's next Friday.
Killing Joke, which I almost bailed on the podcast to see tonight.
Yeah, my buddies Scott are seeing it right now. They're out there doing that, so I'm super...
Yeah, there's the one controversial scene of Batgirl and Batman a la Catwoman #1 action there. I'm not going to get too much into it, but a lot of people think that's just... And it sort of hints to some stuff they said that might have happened in Batman, the animated series, that they hinted at in Batman Beyond, about possibly Bruce and Barbara having a relationship behind Dick's back, and that's one of the several reasons that he breaks
I don't know how, man, I don't know how I feel about that. Kaylee, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
that's dark
of it in the movie, and it just, I don't know. It really rubbed me the wrong way, even though, I mean, honestly, the Killing Joke kind of rubs me the wrong way, but it's supposed to. But
yeah, I mean,
extra sexualization of Batgirl just prove a point of some sort.
Yeah, it means
doesn't come off right to me.
Obviously, it's nobody likes to do the whole cliche of stuffing your girlfriend, wife, significant other in a fridge, but I always look at art going, even art through the first viewing offends me, like I'm not upset, I'm upset by it, I need to stop and go, okay, this upsets me, why does it upset me? What is it trying to tell me? And then if beyond that, do I feel that was crass or easily, like, artistically manipulative, then I'll be more critical of it. But if it's not, I'll take the lesson to heart, because that's how I view art, period. Anyways, that was a bit dark. All right.
More Steven Universe.
More Steve. So what's going on with Steven Universe? Sorry, we sort of got sidetracked. So what's going on with that?
They're just doing the Summer of Steven Adventure, so they just dump a whole like a week or two's worth of episodes. I've been catching up on CartoonNetwork.com.
Now these are new episodes, right?
Yeah, these are brand new episodes.
Yeah, okay. So I heard that they actually have like a whole month of Steven Universe.
Oh yeah.
Audience members, if you're not familiar, generally what's been going on with Steven Universe is they actually release about a week's worth of episodes every couple of months and they do about 30 or 40 episodes for a season. So they do it kind of like all year long, and this is sort of a new thing where for about 3 to 4 weeks we're going to get nothing but Steven Universe. So it's a lot of Steven Universe, which is really good.
Super hyped. They're really beginning to develop Peridot as one of the crystal gems and not sort of that weird antagonistic relationship.
Yeah, that's how the last sort of arc happened where Peridot... got it. Sorry. Spoilers, everyone. If no one wants to be spoiled by Steven Universe, skip ahead about a few minutes and you'll be fine. But anyways, 3, 2, 1, spoilers.
So yeah, Peridot, I think Lapis is coming back into the fold. I'm really eager to see what they're going to do with Homeworld. I love the music. It's just so infectiously, weirdly happy.
Yeah, Yellow Diamond. I'm waiting for Yellow Diamond to show up and beat the living crap out of all of them. And then see how they do. I want to see when they all merge together into one thing. All of them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if like Steven confused with anyone other than Connie.
Yeah, or like Peridot's... When you add a new gem to the mix, you start getting a new combination of what happens when two of them start mixing. So Peridot being in with, let's say, Pearl would be very interesting.
Really Peridot with any of them, because as we found out in one of the latest episodes, Peridot's kind of a second-tier gem, like Homeworld's running low on resources, so she doesn't have some of the abilities like shape-shifting.
That's why she uses
all the other gems.
Yeah, that's why she has the technology to compensate for what she does. But anyways, that's Steven Universe. Everyone should check it out. It's pretty flipping awesome. What else we got in the news, guys? Kaylee, do you got anything?
Actually, how many of y'all have heard of No Man's Sky?
Yeah, I have.
Nope.
For anyone listening, No Man's Sky is a video game coming out real soon, and it's boasted as being one of the most expansive sandboxy games in existence. Take it away, Kaylee.
I'm actually waiting to hear that it's going to be pushed back again.
It's gotten gold.
They've actually had another lawsuit come up that is really big and critical on it.
What's this lawsuit? Come on.
The super formula that they used to be to do their procedural generation
Mm-hmm.
is actually patented by the guy who created it.
Oh no.
And they did not speak to him. So things maybe have to be put on pause for Cell until they get that resolved.
Well, that could be bad, but we'll see. Kaylee, keep on top of that story. I'm interested to see because I'm super on the fence about getting No Man's Sky. It looks really cool, but I want to see what the reviews tell me because everyone I've been listening to has been like, either this will be a fantastic, expansive, immersive game, or you'll play for it for a couple hours, maybe half a day, and that's it. Because you'll get bored because it'll be the same thing.
That's what most people will do.
What, play for a few hours?
Yep, because I will say, I play Elite Dangerous, which is a very similar concept.
Mm-hmm.
And they are working on adding all the features that would kind of be present in No Man's Sky. So it's going to be a lot of exploring. You'll rarely ever run into another player. And since they actually do not show any sort of player names, you won't really know that you've actually met another player. You're just going to think it's another AI.
No, I think that's really cool. And I've heard...
So it's an always online single-player game. For the most part.
Yeah, I heard today that you won't need PlayStation Plus to be online and play this multiplayer because of it's so big. They're like the estimations of you running into an actual another player are exceedingly slim. For anyone who isn't aware, what happens when you have No Man's Sky and you're online, you start randomly somewhere in the galaxy. So literally, this is the size of a galaxy. So there are billions and upon billions of stars and like systems and planets.
8.1 billion.
Yeah, like your brain can't even comprehend that much. Like we can't visualize that. So, and these are full worlds that you can explore and do stuff with. So it's supposed to be
1-to-1 scaling on them.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of nuts, and I'm super eager to see what happens with it. Well, thank you, Kaylee.
It's something that I really enjoy, especially playing Elite Dangerous. So I want to get it, but have Elite Dangerous as well. So
well, Elite Dangerous has been out for a while. It's tried, it's tested, it's got its market. Like it knows what it is and does it very well. What's Star Citizen? Is that the other one that's coming out soon?
That thing will never come out.
Oh, I have stories for you about my buddy who has put hundreds of dollars already into that game. And he's got it. He can play, he can fly around. It's not released yet, so the full game is not ready.
I have it as well. I know it's in there. It's a giant steaming turd bag.
I don't know. What I've seen is pretty awesome, so...
Thing crashes, it's super buggy and everything with it.
Well, alright, well... we'll talk about that when it gets either close to release or is released. We'll come back and talk about Star Citizen. If anyone's interested, just go Google Star Citizen. It's a big thing because it was one of the most highest earning Kickstarter that they've ever had for a video game. It made over like 70-80 million or something ridiculous. And that was just from the Kickstarter. That's not even post Kickstarter. Alright, so, well, last week, me and Chris challenged each other to watch something we hadn't watched. I have seen the first episode, and only the first episode, of Stranger Things. Do not spoil this. This is not about spoilers beyond the first episode. All right? Everyone good?
Well,
I've only seen the first 4.
I also challenged you to watch some more of Powers.
I have not watched Powers. I did not have time to watch Powers.
Okay, I will say, give season one, take it with a grain of salt. They were kind of finding their way. Season two, they really, really get their footing, and the ending of season two was, wow, it was
All right, I will
brilliant.
do that. It will take me some time. I can't do this every week. I got lots of stuff to do. I run other podcasts. I write a lot. Stuff come. Also, I'm going on vacation for a couple days next weekend, so I need to.
I'm beginning
so-
to
I got a
question
game this
your
weekend.
dedication to Sparkle Motion, Matt.
What?
I'm beginning to question your dedication to Sparkle Motion.
Sparkle. All right, I'm not getting the joke there, big man.
Donnie Darko.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah, I can't collapse times and go through wormholes. Woo! But anyways, Stranger Things. Let me give you my synopsis. Within the 5 minutes, I was utterly sold. This is Goonies. This is Stephen King. This is Spielberg. This is E.T. This is everything from the 80s, and I adore it.
Yeah, it's the Goonies, E.T., Stand By Me.
The kids were playing D&D. You immediately hooked me in my feelings, and it was the 80s.
Yep.
It's at least 84. I'm pegging the time about 84 is when that time. It's not the late 80s. Everyone's still living pseudo 70s clothing and perspectives, but they're definitely solidly in the 80s.
And
Do you
it's-
know it's I would say it's early to mid 80s simply because they did have a Clash on the radio. And
Yes.
that particular song that came out was 82.
Yeah, it's a right around there.
I think one
I
of our
like-
loyal viewers is just
Uh,
alluded us. It's
Nigel, yeah,
83. Yeah.
83? All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, chat. That's what you're there for. Appreciate it. I like all the characters. I'm super interested to see where the mystery goes. I've got some hypotheses, but I'm not going to sell them out right now. I bet in probably a couple weeks when I'm done watching it, because I promised I'd watch it with my wife. We'd watch it together. When we are done, we will have a episode of Taco Salad that is about spoiling the crap out of Stranger Things. Is that cool? Is that good?
Totally cool by me. I think I'm only like 4 episodes in, maybe.
There's only 8. There's only 8 episodes, so it's
Yeah.
not going to take me long to finish it. I just started it because I had a little bit of time today. I'll probably actually watch about a good couple more, about half of it by this weekend when I leave. I didn't watch Powers, but what'd you think of Community there, Chris?
I feel like I should have started watching Community when it first came out, because I'm looking at the first episode of Community, having gotten through all of The Office and all of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And that first episode, which I had actually seen earlier, I just wasn't really paying very much attention to it. It was one of those I'll just put it on while I fold my laundry or
Yeah.
in the bathroom, and it just, I don't know, it didn't capture me the way that that some of the other similar genres
I would
have.
wa-
Like, Abed I thought was wonderful. I kind of want to see
It
more of where he goes.
only gets better. Everything only gets better. Kaylee, have you seen Community? Oh man, you guys are killing me over here. You
I also just
really
didn't like
are.
Chevy Chase that much. So.
So, I put it to you, Chris. Watch a few more episodes. It does get better. A bit. Sorry. It's say
Abed.
the Ahmed.
Abed with a B.
Abed. Sorry. Abed is the one who, like, starts stealing the show later on, especially like season 2 or season 3. But they're all good. It's all funny. And Kaylee, I again put it to you. Try to see if you can watch an episode or 2 of Community. I think you'll enjoy it. It's pretty good. But Steven Universe first. That is your first task. Steven Universe.
Definitely Steven Universe.
See,
You would,
I've done
you would,
Stranger
Kaylee.
Things.
Kaylee, what I know of you as a person, would love Steven Universe.
If you ever loved all of those cartoons from the 80s where it was a team of mostly guys with the one token girl, Steven Universe flips that trope over. And it is a team of women with the one kid, and it's the one guy who is like the loving, sensitive, caring, like, let's all be friends, while most of the female characters are like, let's just kick its butt.
Yeah, let's just kick its teeth in. It's fine. See, that's and also to get a little serious for a moment, Steven Universe is actually a cartoon that deals with some pretty heady, serious, emotional things.
Oh yeah, it deals
while
with
being super sensitive to them without sugarcoating them. Like, if you're old enough to understand to read between the lines, you get a lot of what's actually going on in the background. if you're a young kid, if you're like a 10 or 12-year-old, okay, you're going to get it, some of it, you're going to get some of the issues and some of the stuff. But if you're like our age, you'll get everything and you'll see all of the subtext.
Yeah, it is. It
And
is
it's
gender
beautiful,
roles,
it's wonderful.
gender identity, consent, relationships, love, like non-traditional families, just
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
And all the characters are interesting, they're all unique. No character feels like sort of a carbon copy of another. They're all super distinct. Everyone gets a moment to be badass in their own way. Yeah, it's really cool. And it has a very interesting world because when Steven Universe gets really interesting, isn't sort of like the day-to-day adventures of Steven Universe. It's the sort of the background meta plot that's building in the background. That's fantastic. It's perfectly done. So yeah, definitely watch Steven Universe if you can.
I've actually just started like going back and binging back through the older episodes just to look for tiny little hidden stuff.
There's
And,
a lot. There's a lot there.
I also finally got my own DVD copy of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which this is completely off topic, but it just hands down my favorite musical of all time.
Also, audience, if anyone's listening, that movie, what he just mentioned, not for kids.
No,
Not
not
for kids.
at all.
Just putting it out there. We try to
Not
be
at all.
family. We try to be relatively PG-13, family friendly around here. Just putting a warning out there. Family, that is not for little kids.
It is a couple of notches more ridiculous and bizarre than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Mm-hmm.
And on an interesting side note, the main person behind that, John Cameron Mitchell, was also the voice of the Dunkaroos kangaroo.
Didn't know that. Would you like to know more?
And the more you know,
I like the Starship Troopers one. It's funnier in my mind. But anyways, moving right along, we've talked about movies, we've talked about television shows, we talked about cartoons, we talked about more television shows. The main topic for this evening, and we'll probably spend another 20 minutes talking about this, is conventions. So we had San Diego Comic-Con, which was cool, but something that sort of sparked my mind when thinking about this convention. This is a big convention. A lot of the industry shows up. They squarely put all this new material out. They get the hype train is everywhere. Everyone's covering it. IGN, all the big gaming places, all the podcasts, all the news networks are like, this is the place you need to be for geek culture stuff. And my sort of question to the rabble here is, are conventions more for fans or for the industry? Because you, Chris and Kaylee and myself, we all go to DragonCon every year, or nearly every year. That's very much started in the bedrock of fandom. Like, it was a fan convention. The industry doesn't really show up. I mean, they do to sell stuff, and occasionally you'll get someone sort of hawking new stuff that's coming up. But we don't get new trailers. We don't get these huge thousand people halls full of fans trying to look at the new trailer for Justice League or Marvel or anything like that. So, what do you guys think about this? Are conventions really need to be for the industry or for the fans? Obviously, they serve both, but
I'm kind of 50-50. I think it really depends on the con. I've been to not San Diego Comic-Con, but I've been to New York Comic-Con, and one of the most jarring things there was some of the booths they had. Like, I expected, like Marvel had a big area where they did all sorts of stuff, Dark Horse, Nickelodeon, but Intel had a booth strictly hawking just Intel. Like, they didn't really have any one particular game they were pushing. They were just, we're Intel and we make processors and geeks love computer games and buy our things. But the way that they had it laid out in the Javits Center was, if you wanted to go to like Artist Alley and just meet the creators, that was all in a whole separate wing of the building, which is a bit of a hike from the main exhibit hall. But it was just comic creators just there doing their thing. A couple of the same people I see at Dragon Con, although I personally probably will not continue to go to Dragon Con just because it's too much of fandoms that I have no interest in, and it's crowded and
it has gotten a lot
nightmare.
bigger. We can talk about Dragon Con more specifically in a little bit because that's super niche for like the Atlanta area.
Yeah.
But
It's
In
definitely not an industry con. Like Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con is definitely that is for the industry. Like there's tons of stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with geeky con stuff. Like you get to see NBC's fall lineup. You know, when's the last time NBC had a geeky TV show? And like my favorite con to go to is Heroes Con. It's a smaller con. It's strictly comic book stuff. It happens in Charlotte every year.
it's narrower,
It's
like
just
narrower in
comics.
focus.
Yeah, it's just comics. A couple of the industry kind of titans, like the Big Power family, Matt Fraction, Kelly Sue DeConnick, they're there every year. I think Matt Fraction's actually from Charlotte, or his family's from Charlotte, so they come every year. Um, you know, and it's there's no industry booths at all. Like it's strictly creators. There's no Marvel booth, no DC booth, no Dark Horse booth. It's meet this writer, meet this artist. I think last I actually missed it this year due to personal and financial reasons. But when I went the year before last, they had Kevin Eastman, one of the creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, was there. The
Hmm.
line wrapped like all the way around the building to get to meet him.
Of course, yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
And I've actually met a few local, like Atlanta, kind of just up and coming artists that do all sorts of weird, quirky stuff. It's amazing, and it's just nothing but fans having fun, meeting creators, and there's
So
zero
you,
industry presence.
so you'd say, I guess, for your personal enjoyment, from your perspective, conventions work best as things that are more fan driven. They're less industry driven.
I enjoy the more fan-driven stuff. Like I don't mind. I didn't mind at New York Comic Con actually getting to go through sort of the industry booths. I got to meet Mark Silvestri at the Image booth. He was one of my favorite X-Men artists. I love that kind of '80s time period X-Men. Some of my favorite stories that he did with Chris Claremont. But you just had to go by the Image booth, get a ticket, and you got to come back later and meet Mark Silvestri, and he'd sign, two or three things. But I had donated in one of his Kickstarters for Cyberforce, so I brought the incentive covers I got as a reward for that. And I'd only donated enough to get one of them autographed instead of all of them, so I brought all the rest of them. And he was like, "Oh wow, you donated my Kickstarter! Awesome, thank you, dude."
That's
Uh,
cool. Now you
and
gotta.
I got some really cool swag. I got like a nice Image tote bag, which I think my ex girlfriend stole. But I did get like a really, some cool shirts. I talked with one of the guys at the booth and just randomly ran into Kieran Gillen, the guy that writes Wicked and Divine. Like just bumped into him while he was hawking some other book. This is before Wicked and Divine even came out. And I just happened to bump into him at a table, kind of near the Image booth, and I talked to him for a few minutes and went about my way. So when it's a good even mix, it's enjoyable. I really don't want to go to a con that's just industry stuff. I feel like I can just read the previous catalog, or it really just kind of feels more like a trade show, and
Yes,
they're
you
there
can get
for
the
each
information from
other.
someone else.
Yeah, and it's just a bunch of posturing by the companies to say like this is why our stuff's going to outsell your stuff. Like I'd rather meet some creators. I'd really have time to sit down and talk with them if possible. Just
Sort of get in the mix of it. Sort of.
yeah, buy way
Yep.
too much artwork and eat really terrible convention food. Or the fun of bumping into Joe Eisma, the artist of Morning Glories. I love that series. It just actually recently wrapped the last week or two. It's a 50 issue series about the creepiest prep school ever. But I've gotten to know him really well from Heroes Con for the past like 4 years. So he and I were actually staying in the same hotel the last time I was there, and we bumped into each other at breakfast one morning, and I got to sit down and have a really nice long talk with him while he was working on some art that I had commissioned from him later to give to somebody as a present. So it's kind
That's.
of that sort of stuff that I love, but I don't feel I can get that at like Dragon Con or like one of the bigger Comic Cons.
No, I can
Although
understand that.
I did run into was it Mike Hogan, the guy that played Colonel Ty on Battlestar Galactica? Just randomly ran into him on a street corner a
Yeah,
couple years ago at
he's
Dragon Con.
around. He's around. Yeah, he does Dragon Con. He was at Dragon Con, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was literally we had
Yeah,
parked my
he's there
car.
every year, and he
Just
mingles with fans all the time.
yeah, I think I heard his voice and I was like, I know that guy's voice. And
Yeah.
we ended up talking about his work in Mass Effect and didn't even mention Battlestar Galactica.
But Kaylee, what do you think? Conventions, should they be more industry? Do you like fan ones? What's your opinion on all that?
Hmm. See how to be the best at this. I like them both. But the key is where I do draw the line is where the convention stops even caring about the fans, period. And it
Mm,
becomes purely industry. Once that happens, you're done.
eh,
I mean, honestly, it's one of the reasons why I know a lot of gamers get really hyped about 3. I look at them like, I do not care. There's nothing about E3 that is worth anything to me because now also most of the companies are doing their own press releases outside of there.
Yeah,
All the
that's
really
actually
good
something we
stuff
can
is
talk
shown
about in a minute.
outside of.
Specifically, we can talk about E3 if you want, if unless you have some more thoughts about conventions and all that.
It's I pretty much said my piece because I like the way San Diego go Comic Con comes because it gives the industry a chance to interact with the fan base.
Okay,
They're still separated, but the fans get to get in there and get the meat and get a lot of the hype directly.
okay,
And
I
then the
can
fan ones, it's fans getting together, enjoying what they love best.
I can respect that. I can understand where you're coming from. You're squarely in the fans' corner. Now, that's not to say the industry cannot be involved in the convention and do stuff at the convention, but you're like conventions are there so the fans can kind of at least see industry and mingle with each other. Is that right? Does that seem
Mhm.
like a good summation?
Yeah,
Okay. But we can.
unless of course the entire point of it is that. But like with E3, they kind of went back and forth to
Mhm.
make up their mind.
Well, a good example of that is E3. So E3 is a trade show. It has always been a trade show. Many moons ago, I was able when I was younger to go to E3 when it was in Atlanta, and it was really cool. But if I felt super exclusive because I was able to get in on a press pass because my dad worked for ABC News, and
Yep.
he got me in by just wearing a press pass, and I got to see all this cool stuff. Nowadays E3 is big in like it is an industry thing, but even people the rumor mill is next year it may be more open to the public. It may start becoming more of a convention because a lot of the big names in video games are like we can just do our own press release under our own conditions on our own dime. We don't need to
Yep.
be at this trade show. And so E3 is like panicking, going, we need more revenue, we need more attention. How do we do that? We can only invite so much press. What do we do? And there is rumor that they will actually be selling tickets to civilians in the future. Now, I'm sure it's going to be
Yeah.
super exclusive, it's super
Well,
expensive, but
I actually remember them doing that a very, very long time ago,
hmm,
where there's a very small amount, but some could get in.
yeah, they've always been
But it was
able to
extremely slim.
like you there's always been a way for civilians to get in, either like I did through backdoor channels of like talking to people who are in the press and they get you a press pass and you're able just to go with them, or you know a guy who's in the convention, etc., and so forth. But this I'm interested to see what happens. I like E3 because I love the hype train. I love waiting, sitting there and seeing all the new stuff. Also, I won't lie, I like the drama. Like I love it when someone screws up. I want to hear about someone doing a giant gaff on stage. It's amazing. Like when remember when we heard about the Xbox One and they're like, "Oh well, we don't know how you're gonna share video games. You're gonna have to do this whole authentic authentication with your friends and stuff like that." And
Yep.
Sony, which was later that night or the next day, just came on and go, "And everyone, this is how you share games with your friends." And he just handed a disc over to his buddy who was on stage, and that was it. Everyone died laughing. They crushed
Yep.
Microsoft that weekend. They just crushed
That one
them.
was that one was a good E3. But like this past year's, I was just like,
Uh, I watch it for Sony now. I mostly just watch it for Sony because man, Sony always puts on a great show, and I love seeing all the new stuff. Like the God of War came out. I'm 1,000% behind that. It's gonna be fantastic. But anyways, back to conventions. Yeah, E3 is super industry, exclusively industry. That's becoming more of a normal convention. Where Gen Con every year it's more and more industry. And fans still go. It's still they need the fans to go to generate all that excess like word of mouth hype. But it's even becoming so big that all everyone's coming to play in San Diego, and it's amazing. It's great, but it's just huge. Whereas Dragon Con, I remember when I went, and it was nothing but fans. Some industry, like I said, showed up, but it's gotten so big every year. It keeps expanding like by like 30 or 40% every year from the previous year. It's getting too big. Like, I don't think the downtown can take it anymore. Like, I almost
Uh-oh.
feel like it needs to go to a convention hall, like the one by the airport. Like, Atlanta has a giant convention hall by the airport, like San Diego's Comic Con. It's got a giant hall, and I'm like, that's where you got to put it, or you're just gonna have more and more problems with all the people.
It's mm, and I have severe issues with crowds usually.
Yeah, and
So
they're
me
going.
surviving Dragon Con takes a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, but granted, over the last couple of years, they've gotten better and better and better about managing the people.
Oh yeah,
Like
that
4 years ago, it was like flawless. Like 3 years ago, it was flawless because they suddenly like just 1 year they mastered everything, getting your ticket, walking around where everything was. Everyone knew where everything was. It was great. And guess what? This year they're changing it up. They are changing up everything this year, and I'm like, come on, guys, please stop.
And I think the
I
last time I went for the full weekend, the time before that, it was like no matter where you were going, it was like you were just inching along. It was like, oh my god, the sky bridge, it smells horrible, and we're not moving. And then the year after that, it was like there's open passages everywhere.
Well, that's because they opened up.
yep.
To anyone who's not familiar with Dragon Con, it takes place Labor Day weekend in Atlanta every year, for 4 days, and for many many years when I was younger, you'd have to walk down on the street to get anywhere, and there was a lot of narrow ways to quickly get anywhere. But it got as crowds increased, it got harder and harder and longer to get anywhere, until because and I think this is because of Dragon Con. Dragon Con drops so much money down in downtown Atlanta every year that they started building what we call hamster trails. They're just sky bridges to all the various hotels and like sky malls and all these other like locations, that there's about 3 ways to get anywhere without ever touching the ground, which dramatically made walking around easier. Like you could get somewhere within 10 minutes at most. At a good time, it was next to like 2 minutes if you weren't crowded. But they
Yep.
dramatically increased the ability for people to walk around. This year, they're moving where a lot of the gaming and other stuff is. And last year, they moved the merchants to the Amerismart, which was a great idea. They needed to do it. They needed more space. But
They moved them to Amerismart 2 years ago.
yeah, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's two
Yep.
years ago.
I thought it was last year. I could have sworn it was Maryland.
Yeah.
They took over a different
Oh
part.
wait, yeah, okay, yeah. You're right. And this year, gaming is supposed to be in the Amerismart One. Like it's up there. It's not in the Hilton anymore. So that's a huge thing, and a lot of stuff is getting shaken up about that, and we're all very curious to see how where everything is at.
I just hope
So
we'll still be able to gather at the game booths and hang out.
sorry, I couldn't hear you, Kaylee.
I just hope that we'll still be able to gather at the gaming booths and hang out.
You may be in for a disappointment.
I know.
The LARP stuff is going to be in the West End. The gaming is supposed to be in the Marismart, and the booths for all the LARPs are supposed to be in the
In the walkway.
in the walkways. And I'm like, well, now we're gonna have to see about that because I think that's a fire hazard. I honestly think it is. So there may be a huge problem, and I'm interested to see how that really does shake out this year. I'll judge it when I get there. Depending on how I feel about this year's Dragon Con, I may skip a year next year because I've been going for many, many years, and it's the 30th this year. I think it'd be a good time to sort of just not go and just do something else for a little bit. But I always love Dragon Con. I always love going to conventions, and this is the only real one I get to go to every year because of financial reasons. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it shakes out.
Really quick. Rober and Chad is saying they are trying as much as possible to not let it be in the walkway.
Yes, please, and we can only
Please.
hope and pray. Hope and pray. That's all we got.
Put it
Because
in a place where we can gather and hang out and talk.
The biggest issue, and I understand what Dragon Con always thought, LARPing doesn't bring in a lot of people. It does bring in some, but not near, barely 0.001% of the convention. And I get it. It's fine. We don't have a big pool. We don't get priority. I can respect that. But they've always put us in areas with a lot of walkthrough, and where they've had us in the past has been fine. The last couple years, because they moved the Walk of Fame somewhere else, I think that was it. It's been much, much easier, and we've had a lot more space and room, but there's always been issues with people hanging out at the booth, but people can't walk through the area because of that, and so they have to keep getting onto us, and there's just it's a big argument every year, and I hope this solves it, but we kind of need that foot traffic, though. And they put all the LARP tables in a not common area for normal people to walk through. We can't get new people into these games, which is the whole point. That a lot of these LARPs use Dragon Con as sort of like face-to-face advertisement, which is really important. Every year you could get 2 or 3 new players for your game, and that's great. That's a healthy game. That starts growing your community, which is important. Thanks for that in the chat, by the way. If you guys have any questions or things you want to add in, just put in there. We're almost done for this evening. It's starting to get close to 10 o'clock. My final thoughts on conventions. I think I'm in Kaylee's camp. I believe I want the fans to be able to mingle with people that they normally can't mingle with. And conventions are how you do that safely. Fans adore their thing, their fandom, their community, and it's important that also the industry be reminded who they're working for, because creators sometimes can lose perspective of why they do something and who they do it for, and meeting fans is like really important to reminding them and sometimes rejuvenating their creative juices of this is why I do this. And so industry is great, but ultimately industry needs the community and needs the fans to propagate their brand. So fans are where it's at when it comes to conventions, in my mind.
Yeah, me, I'd take it in kind of a con by con basis. Like, there's just a few of the cons. I'm like, this is the industry trade show con, like Comic-Con. That whole franchise is mostly industry, and it's for a fan to go and go, here's what's coming out next year. This is what I have to look forward to. This is what they want me to spend my money on.
Right.
Things like Dragon Con and Heroes Con, it's like, I'm going to go just meet tons of famous creators and do all sorts of stuff. Like, my own personal feelings on Dragon Con is I feel that, like, the cost has far exceeded my enjoyment of it. I have had a few glowing moments, like when I got to meet Adrian Paul, my girlfriend at the time. Had a huge crush on him in the Highlanders, so I yanked her into line and was like, I'm buying you an autographed picture of Adrian Paul.
Yeah, my wife loves Carl Urban, and she had to sit in line. Over a couple hours, I kept coming back to the line, seeing where she was at and what was going on, and she was just a fangirl the entire time.
Yeah, and I actually personally, because he's a family friend, know the cinematographer that shot one of Adrian Paul's first movies. So I mentioned that I've lived around the corner from them for like 30 years, and like their kids and we all grew up together. So I was like, yeah, they adopted the cat from Love Potion #9 after filming Rap, and it's tickled pink that he was like, that is the strangest thing ever. But he's like, oh yeah, I remember working with that guy.
And for me, I guess it's also about expectation management. If a convention's like, we are an industry convention, this is what we do, and you buy that ticket for that convention, you just know what you're getting into. Whereas if you go to something like Dragon Con, where it's like, we're a fan convention, and that's what you go for. But the thing about Dragon Con that's bothered me, they're still a fan quote-unquote convention, but because of how they manage space... What was that?
That was
Anyways.
Beasley.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a dog currently asleep under her chair.
Okay. All right, we're almost done, Beasley. Sorry about that, audience. Stray person talking into microphones. But anyways, expectations, and that's important. God damn it. Sorry about this. I'll finish my thought and we'll wrap up. If a convention is one way and they go another way, then you're going to have a problem with me. If you're a fan convention and you start becoming more industry, but you still sell yourself as a fan and you don't cater to fans, I got an issue with you. So that's my final thoughts on conventions. But as always, if you like this episode and you want to give us some more topics to talk about, or you want to shoot us a story, head over and give us an email at tacosalad@geektaco.com. Which I actually want to give a special shout out to Dolores. She sent a giant thank you email to us saying that she loved the show and she wants us to keep up the good work. So thank you, Dolores.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dolores.
Yes, and if you guys want to reach us more personally, we're all on Twitter. I am at Bioimportance.
I am at Mutant Biscuit.
I am at ShadowsGone_. Actually, just noticed I need to fix that on the overlay.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry.
Shadows.
No, I'll get Zach right on it. He's our other co-producer. He actually owns Geek Taco, and he does all our overlays for us. But anyways, enough of that. From everyone here at Taco Salad, geek out!